Hello and welcome to mentfx. So the age-old question, the question I want to answer today, is can you predict something like GameStop and actually get involved in it using nothing more than technical analysis so you can get involved and then get out, make your money, and go on to the next thing. Now before I even do it, before I even check to see whether it is the case or not, something that I think is really important to mention is that it is not necessary to catch those kind of moves or be in those kind of moves to make millions, billions, hundreds of millions of dollars from the market. Okay, that's number one. So just recognize that not being part of insane moves that do happen that you can look back on and go, oh my, what a beautiful time. If only I could be a part of that, etc., etc., etc. Not being a part of a move like that, whether it be gold surging, whether it be a housing crisis and something else surging, whether it be bank stocks surging, whether it be GameStop surging, whether it be Bitcoin surging, those things are going to happen year after year. Something new, something will always happen, and we will all look back as little investors that go, oh, I can't believe I missed it. Next time I'm going to be smarter. But the reality is that's not what you need to actually succeed as an investor or a trader. Now, I specifically work as a trader, and that's what I teach, so I don't talk about the investing side. But the question today is using the things that I personally teach, which is getting involved through a simple setup like an ICI like so, entering on something like this, as well as the contextual cues that I use to decide whether or not a market is even worth watching. The question becomes, would I be able to stay out of poor price action and get involved on good price action and potentially run up what had happened during GameStop? And would I have a profitable time during that whole like insane move, right? Because again, we know many people lost billions, hundreds of millions on that, right? Hedge funds lost a fuck ton, they're short interest, they got screwed over, all the stuff. And the question is, would my system keep me out of poor trades? Would it keep me from losing a ton of money? And best case scenario, would it make me money? Now, an important thing to note again is if we're not in that whole move, remember it doesn't mean that the system's bad. What it means is that the system wasn't met for its rules there. And that's something you're going to learn a lot on my channel and a lot about just the way I teach in general, which is that rules define a system from start to finish. So without further ado, let's go to GameStop. Now, all right. Let's, because I've already analyzed this for my team in terms of where we are now and why I haven't touched it whatsoever. But let's go back to before the craziest time of our lives happened. Okay? Of everyone's lives happened. So we'll go back here. Okay? We'll just go back here somewhere. We'll even go even further back. Okay? We'll do something like this. There we go. So this is before the craze on GameStop happened. This is during the time where there were people talking about it, whether it be Reddit forums, all this stuff. Right? And you could have gone to the chart yourself and taken a look at whether or not there's something to even enter, if something is in a decent context to be entered, and whether you could have actually traded it. So the first thing to define for ourselves, very importantly, is what kind of time frame based trader are we? Are we entering trades on a daily time frame? Are we entering trades on an hourly, a 4-hour, a 15-minute, a 30-minute, a 1-minute, a 1 second, etc.? Now, personally, my current system, I look for entries on a 15-minute. However, for my stock system, I actually currently look for setups on the hourly chart. So for today's example, on this kind of redo of GameStop, I'll be looking for my entries on the hourly chart. Now, if I'm using an hourly chart, I simply teach this as the rule of 30. I have a video about this, but very simply, if I multiply that by 30, that is my rule of 30, you get 30 hours, which is basically the same as 24 hours, which is basically the same as 1 day. So simply, the analysis that I'll be doing from a higher time frame bias, from a higher time frame basis, is using the daily chart. I'm going to be asking myself on the daily if it's even worth to start dropping down lower to actually decide whether the market's tradable. Then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using my rule of 4, which is multiplying by 4, which gives me 4 hour, which is going to be the time frame I'm going to use to validate demand or supply in the regards of going short or long. Right? So if I'm validating demand, I'm looking to go long. If I'm validating supply, I'm looking to go short. And then I'm going to be using my hourly to actually enter the trade. And the entry, as always, is based on the entry that I teach, which is my ICI methodology, based on what I'm used to seeing, what I've experienced, and it looks for a setup along these lines. And then by stopping this area here to take the next leg higher. So without further ado, let's get into it. So here we are in GameStop at a random time. We kind of just went back. And the question becomes, when does this market become tradable? Is it even tradable? Are we going to catch anything? How do we prevent taking huge losses like some people did during this thing? And can we use the mentfx methodology to actually get involved on what we know was an insane move on this thing, right? And can we actually make money? So first things first is here I am on the daily. The question becomes, where are we? Well, lo and behold, because of the way the mentfx community works, the way the mentfx structure, indicators, and all this stuff works, we have a very easy way to actually get a quick amount of information about this price. We have ranges already defined for us. We have a maze on here, and we have this beautiful thing down here, which shows us the models that a market is currently moving in. So at the moment, if I look from a left to right perspective of what's going on here, prices played around, went through clearly a stage 1 here, began a stage 2 and played out through stage 2 right here. Very simple. Started undergoing potential stage 1 into new stage 2, but then started going sideways more. Longer term stage 1 into now potential stage 2 into a break higher, which is clearly redistribution, where we expect the next continuation of the stage 2 to be lower. And simply, we can see already as we see that why a lot of people were preying on its downfall. Now, just getting involved short isn't bad. It's not wrong. But getting involved short with basically infinite amounts of leverage so you can basically look to liquidate the company, this is what a lot of companies were doing, as you guys know. And that, as we know, builds clouds of liquidity. So during the whole time this whole thing was happening, it is building clouds of liquidity. But at the moment, it's not clouds of liquidity that are worth trading, right? Right now, we clearly see we're not in any accumulation on the daily. So right now, the market itself is actually in a downtrend, is actually likely to keep moving short. And what I normally do for my own stock plays is I only trade the long side of the market. So in this case, this is a market that I would simply not watch at this point whatsoever until it begins to show me some form of accumulation. That means that I want to see some kind of longer term stage 1 that begins to break long. This right here switches to accumulation. We start seeing breaks long, and then we can start to follow it on a lower time frame. So right now, I can simply sit on the sidelines and wait. Let's see what happens. So price continues to actually break down and actually validates that redistribution like we said it would. See it reaching that 70-cent level. Fantastic. Keeps playing around, and then all of a sudden has this kind of back and forth range and rips higher. And look at what happens down here. The price for the first time, or the first time the market moves into accumulation territory. And that doesn't mean we're going to be trading it, but what it means is that we are in accumulation, which means that there's a prospect for price to go higher. Now the question for me becomes, is it in an area where I can even start to watch it? So we did have back and forth, which is good. We're not just going sideways in a huge range, right? We're not just like going sideways like this in a huge range. Instead, we're coming up, we're breaking down, we're playing around, and then we're coming away from that. So we're in a clear, fresh range. So at the moment, we have the possibility to keep going. Of course, that's just the only thing we can expect from this. Most recently, demand had come in from right here. So no supply has entered the market yet, which means that the anticipation is that price wants to keep going or pause and keep going, which means we can now step down to our 4-hour to validate the hourly, right? So let's see what we can do. So as we step down to the 4-hour, what do we see? Well, the first thing we see, and I bring my attention to this, is that we are actually in likely a redistribution. But the question is, are we? So I'm going to actually work through the chart here. But what we had is we had a lot of back and forth. Price began to accumulate, reaccumulate, and then started breaking down. So longer term stage 1 into a new stage 2 downwards, held its side downwards, but then broke long, failed to hold, broke short, and now broke long. So I actually see this as an accumulation. You have a multi back and forth that couldn't decide where to go, despite having already assigned a bearish structure to this back here. And because it couldn't continue that move, we can assume that this break here is functioning as accumulation. However, the question now becomes, are we clear to watch for actual longs on a lower time frame? So the first thing I want to do to check for that is I want to see where has my most recent demand come in. Most recent demand has entered at this down candle here and then gotten validated with this type 4 through this candle here. So you have a type 4 demand zone that formed right here, which is where price is actually above right now, which is phenomenal because that means that follow through is likely. And at the same time, I want to ask myself about supply. Has supply done anything? So this zone has not created a type 4 supply just yet, and so hasn't this one. So at the moment, we have no supply coming into the market, which means that all this selling is likely cloud of liquidity-based selling, where we expect price to make a run on that, which is going to be great because, well, we spoke about that exact same concept on that higher time frame. So phenomenal. Everything is lining up at the moment. Nothing is invalidating what we want to see. We can get rid of this demand zone here because it's no longer important. We can focus on this 4-hour one due to the fact that we can assume that this has just exited a stage 1 accumulation. We can even draw kind of a box around it to really showcase it and just to get you guys kind of thinking about the way that my mind sees price action, right? So this is what you would call a stage 1, and simply the anticipation is that we're in a stage 2 now that can basically deliver anywhere inside of this, like so. So we would expect this to now start this potential stage 2 delivery. That's kind of what I see in my mind when I do this, but I'm not going to draw that because, well, I don't need it. We'll go with gray. We'll go with light gray. There we go. So we have demand validated, which means that now on an hourly, if we have clarity for a setup, we can definitely take it, right? And notice how these setups are now happening way before price was ever at nearly $20 or anything like that. It's just clarity within price. And what did we have? We had a market that was going back and forth for a while, started coming down, failed to keep going down as per this short-term stage 1 and entered new stage 2 to the top side, and right now it's actually in a phenomenal accumulation model to keep moving along. So at the moment, all I would want to see is I'd want to see price come down, probably come up, and make a setup right here, and I'd be happy to trade it. There'd be no reason I wouldn't trade that setup. So let's see what we can get here. So hopefully it comes up, goes sideways now, just like that. This is ultimate perfection, right? Starts going sideways just like we discussed, and there's no reason that I can't take a long through this high, protecting just this candle's low and looking to take it long. Let's see if we can get tapped in. So still looks good. Okay, and we do get tapped into the trade. Now I get to simply follow my management. Okay, so I'm just going to do my management because it's what I'm used to. So right now there's nothing to do, and I take a -1. Okay, so we take a -1. Wow, what do you know? That's still a lot less than what a lot of the people that traded this thing and were on the wrong side of took. Okay, so we're going to get rid of this, and we're going to assume and ask ourselves, where are we in this market? And the reality is we're still in a really clear condition. And if we can do something like this, I'll be happy to take another long. So let's see what we got here. So it's coming to play at that demand zone, which is perfect because now we can have demand come in. And if it doesn't, then we get to wait on the sidelines. Yep, so this is pure perfection. It makes a huge move and it starts going sideways, which is a good thing to see. Now, personally, it's going to be dependent on you whether or not this is an entry that you're willing to take. But at the moment, due to the overextension of this, right, I would expect price to, even if it validates, to come back and make a new setup right here. So I'm going to wait to allow price to do what it needs to do. Hopefully go sideways for a bit, just like that. And now what I want to see is it set up something here so I can take a buy stop. That will be perfection. Let's see if we can get that. Is that high under it? It's not, so we're good. Okay, perfect. So now we've created another little like short-term pivot, whatever you want to call it. The 20 has started heading straight up. The 50 has just kind of went sideways and started heading up. So this is really the first time this is happening since prices have reaccumulated from a demand zone, which is perfect. That's what I want to see. So I am going to be willing to take another try at this trade right here. And what happens is if this trade fails, I'll simply stop following anything within this range and wait for new ranges to come. Because when multiple trades potentially fail, what happens is price can do this for a longer term period of time. So I'm not going to be interested in that. Now we have a 0.05 ATR, so we can protect really just under like this candle body here. It looks good. Let's see if we can get into it. Okay, so we get tapped into price. We get tapped into the trade right here. Let's see if we can actually sustain a move. Nope, instant -1. And actually, it's less than a -1 because it gapped. So instead of being 0.06, it was 0.09, which actually means we took a -1.5 RR trade, which is fine. So that's all good. Now we can wait for another setup to happen. Yep. So again, you're getting the same thing happening right now where it's not wrong to buy stop this, but because we've taken 2 lost trades in just this range alone, I'm going to allow this range to basically create a new one and then set up again, or I'm going to let it start chopping around. So hopefully it chops around, so we're correct, but otherwise I don't really care. Let's see what it wants to do. Yep, so longer term chop. Good to see. This 4-hour low starts to fail, so we can jump to the 4-hour and take a look at where we are. The 4-hour has now undergone double supply to the downside, so I can simply cancel that and watch for new demand to enter. Otherwise, the likelihood of this market is to do what? Sideways more and more and more, and then probably even come down. Right? The likelihood is that it's probably going to liquidate the low now. So I don't have to touch anything. So now we have demand enter the market right here. Finally, new demand enters the market with a potentially upsloping 20 with 50 just leveling out. So we can jump back to the hourly. And the hourly at the moment is actually in as you can see down here, in potential redistribution. Now, when I see prices come up this heavily and basically make its own leg from this low to this high, come down for reaccumulation, start breaking higher, then break short, and now it's starting to break long. I see this as accumulation, right? So the reality is if I see a trade now, I'll be happy to take it. But from looking at this, I don't see a good trade here. Instead, I want to see price move, come back, and then give me a setup somewhere around here. I hate these inside little setups here. I've tested them. They're not for me. So I'm going to wait. Right? Let this thing kind of go sideways for a while. Do whatever it needs to do because there's nothing to trade here, right? So this is stage one. This is weak to strong hand transfer. And if you trade these kind of areas, whether you're long or short, you're probably taking losses, right? Okay. So price actually then rockets out of whatever this was, the stage one, whatever you want to call it, validates through this high, making the overall move in accumulation, which means now if we can pull back and make a setup, I'll be happy to take it. So we come up. This is the first time we're making a setup here. The 20 is heading straight up. The 50 has just started heading up. So I'm going to skip this and allow it to get better. What I mean by that is even if it comes up now, that'll be okay. What I want to see is it come up and then come down and then set up a trade here for me, or start coming down now and then set up a trade here for me. But either way, both of these opportunities don't involve me buying this, okay? So that is why I'm going to wait now for clarity on this entry. And this is why I wait for clarity. So it's just very choppy. This is not price action that's easy for me to trade, and I would not force anything here. But what's beautiful, even though the choppy price action is present, is that we are in accumulation, which is perfect. So if we can start to create cleaner price action, then I'll be happy to take a trade. But right now, it's as ugly as it can get. And then it actually enters distribution, sadly. So we get to sit on the sidelines and wait now for new accumulation to come in. What we can actually do is we can go to the 4 hour and wait for demand to come in. So the 4 hour actually does have clear demand that has come in already right here, which means the hourly is fine to keep on watching for accumulation, which means a break of this high. So we'll wait for that now. Yep, so you can see that demand is holding very nicely off that higher time frame. So that means money's coming in, but then it fails to hold itself through. And look at this. The money's just sideways, right? And this is why it's so important to have rules to be able to be on the sidelines. So now I just get to wait. Now, accumulation enters the market, but it's very weak. So I'm going to wait for something stronger. Reaccumulation, potentially, but then fails down. And we're back in distribution. Now I can go back to the 4 hour and take a look at where we are. You can see we're on the downside of price, and I get to simply sit on the sidelines and wait now for new demand to enter, hopefully, as it starts moving higher. Okay, so clearly, big move, demand validated. So clearly, we've had some demand enter, but now the question becomes, is it worth even trading this thing? Take a look at something really important. Look at the choppiness of this MA over and over again in this range. This is choppy price action. At the same time, look how long we've been in this range. That is not good. Let's take a look at the daily and see what we're doing. The daily is also stuck in this huge range. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the daily and wait for it to become clearer before I even look at that lower time frame. Okay, and price takes off through the high, which makes this overall thing an accumulation. So again, it becomes very likely that price wants to move higher. But right now, it's not giving me an opportunity to trade, which is fine. And the 4 hour is just moving higher, which means that the likelihood of this move is to either go higher and then snap back heavily, or to start snapping back now, in which case we might be able to get a setup around here. Otherwise, there's nothing for me to touch. Let's see what price does. So the 20 begins to catch up, the 50 begins to catch up, and we then validate demand right here, which is perfect because now that means that we can start watching a lower time frame for potential entries. But then the question becomes, is it in a good context? And the answer now is, yeah. We went through this stage one, and look at all this price action we just stayed out of by simply following rules. We stayed out of dog shit price action, okay? And now we had a beautiful accumulation start, starts gapping higher, making new highs, which is perfect to see, and currently is broken down to start a reaccumulation. What do I want to see now? I want to see price break down, come up, and maybe give me a setup around here, up here, one of those, and I'd be happy to take it. Let's see if we can get that. Comes down nicely. So again, reaccumulation fails to hold, and I simply get to walk away from a market that is not doing what I want to see it do, which is great because, well, I don't have to do any work. I just get to sit back and let this market do whatever it needs to do. So here we are on the 4 hour again. Now I'm waiting for it to validate demand once again. It validates demand right here, which is perfect to see. We jump back to the hourly and ask ourselves if we're actually in a condition to trade. So the reaccumulation here, as you can see from the bottom right, is still present, which is good to see. But you have a 50 that's sloping straight down, the 20 that is actually kind of getting choppy and maybe even sloping a little bit sideways. So the likelihood of this is that it's going to chop around for a bit, start a move, and then maybe give us an entry around here. In that case, I'll be happy to take it. Otherwise, there's nothing for me to touch. So it comes up, accumulation is present, which is great. Now we can wait for our entry. Hopefully we get a nice pullback here off for a reaccumulation. Yep, just like that. And now what am I looking for? So again, started sloping down, started sloping up. If we can come down a little bit, maybe make a setup here, I'll be happy to take it. Let's see if we can do that. So hopefully it comes down a little bit here. Nope, just keeps gapping higher. And again, I get to sit on the sidelines and wait because there's nothing for me to do during conditions like these. Sometimes that's how trading is going to function. You have to be aware of that and okay with it. Prices will, though, set up for you if you wait and give them the chance to. Now, this is the kind of setup I want to look for. The 50 started going sideways, started slipping up a little bit. The 20 just mellowed out a little bit. And we just started going sideways within a new bullish range, within reaccumulation that's moving higher. So I'm perfectly happy to take a long through this 0.08 ATR, which is here. I'm just going to use a 0.16 under this candle low and look to take that long. Let's see if we can get an entry. So price, in this case, gaps up, enters me, and then gaps down and instantly gives me a loss. Let's record that. This is what trading looks like. Beautiful. But the question here is the setup still prominent? Is it still good? And I would say the answer is yes. Through this high, this is a beautiful setup. But the question is, can I actually put a stop loss on this trade now? That makes sense. And yeah, I think having a stop under these lows here still makes sense. So we're good to go. Let's see if we can get tapped in. Trade looks good. So we do get tapped in, but this is after market hours, so it won't count. So we have to wait till 9:30 to get actually tapped in. Yeah. So we have to wait till, so it's still not tapped us in. We have to wait till the market actually opens. And there we go. Market opens and then taps us in right here. So now we're finally in the trade. Now I'm just going to work through my own management system. I'll tell you guys everything that I'd be doing before it happens, just so you know. But I'm not going to walk through my whole management system again because I've done it in the last few videos already. Okay. So now I wait for my break even. Look at this. And we get stopped out beautifully. It's a -1. And we once again get to sit on the sidelines and wait for our setup. Let's see what we can get. Starts breaking down. We get to check a 4-hour now. 4-hour did validate demand, so we are good to watch it, which is good to see. And then it takes off again, but once again, without us. And hopefully you're seeing this firsthand that it doesn't mean shit to me. All these moves that have taken off without us, it doesn't matter because markets that are sustaining moves, that are making trending moves, are going to give you setups eventually. And as long as you follow rules, you're going to be able to stay out of bad price action and hopefully get involved on good price action. But sometimes it's not going to play the way you want it to play. That's what trading is. You take the risk on the you unknowingly, so you don't know what's going to happen next, but you take the risk on that supposition, knowing that in the scenarios where what you're expecting does happen, which will over a long enough time frame, you are going to make a fuck ton of money, which is what we do as traders. So back to waiting for the setup, right? Beautiful pullback, moves higher, sideways action, exactly what we want to see. Buy stop the high as these start to move a little bit higher, just like that. Protect the low, look to take it higher. No entry, but setup is still clear, so we're going to keep it on here as the buy stop. Yep, looks good still. Taps us in on this candle, so we're in the trade now. There we are. Okay, so we're still in the trade, looks good. Now I'll watch for my rules for break even. At the moment, no rules for break even are met, so I get to wait. Okay, rules for breaking even are met, so my stop loss gets to move to break even now. And I get to hold the rest higher. Okay, so price just plays around. I have no reason to do anything just yet. Just following some management rules now. Nothing to touch. Okay, still looks good. still looks good. Nice, beautiful move, but nothing out of the ordinary. So I just get to hold and keep managing this as is. Yep, so now we'll manage to this as our 50%. So if price hits this, I'll be out for 50% of my trade. Okay, keeps playing around. Okay, we get stopped out of our first position for 1.06 RR gain. And the rest we are going to leave at break even now. There we go. And keep managing with the rules. Let's see if we get stopped out. We do. So this trade gets stopped out. We can delete the stop loss now. We can delete this. We can delete this. Great. So we have a plus 1.06 there. And we're still in clean reaccumulation. Let's take a look at the 4 hour. 4 hour has made a actually double supply zone. So now we get to wait for a 4 hour demand zone to keep following this. So we wait. We wait. We wait. It's still in reaccumulation, which is good to see. Demand starts entering the market, but look at where it's happening. Now I get to wait on the sidelines. Now we validate demand. There we go, at a nice area, so we can look at the 1 hour. 1 hour has entered reaccumulation and started moving higher again, which is phenomenal. But again, this is one of those areas where I don't personally like entering this. Instead, I want to see price come up, come down, and then give me a setup. Simple as that. Let's see if we can get that. So price comes up, comes down, enters redistribution. So now I get to sit on the sidelines and wait. Comes up heavily, comes down. I mean, there's nothing for me to touch here. Price is in just a sideways market now in a longer term range. So I get to wait for it to either set something up. MA is getting a little bit choppy. So again, this is an area where, yeah, you could trade a buy here, but I won't. Because again, for me, it's not clear. Beautiful. Now we've entered accumulation. Hopefully we break down for a reaccumulation shortly, and then we can take a trade on this. Yep, beautiful accumulation. Comes down for a short-term potential. Nah, it just keeps going off, so we don't get to trade this. And again, a move without us. But it's in a beautiful accumulation model. Stage 1 has entered into stage 2, which means that now we can assume any stage 1 is hopefully going to enter new stage 2. Because of multi-time frame analysis that's pointing, right, look at the daily here, that's pointing to overall accumulation now. Right, we started trading it here when it started showing us that accumulation was coming in. So let's see if we can get something. First time the 50 starts sloping up, 20 starts sloping up. This starts to make an ICI over this high. So we're going to buy stop this high. Stop loss under candle low. Nope, can't do it. So we have to go right here. There we are. Again, using this ATR measurement here to make sure that my stop loss is a good enough size. By stopping this high right here. See if we get tapped in. We get tapped in, instantly take a -1. Beautiful. Now the question is setting up, here, gotta put this in, a better trade yet? I do not see one currently. We're gonna give price a second to play around, decide whether or not it wants to set something up. Goes into deeper reaccumulation, not much to touch, 4 hour, and we wait for new demand to enter. Simple as that. Starts to undergo more sideways action. Hopefully we don't start continuing to move down because then it would be distribution. Let's see what it wants to do. Validates demand to the top side, 50 sloping upwards, 20 sloping downwards. So at the moment we can still take a look at a lower time frame. Hourly, that reaccumulation has begun to play out, which is good to see. And now we can see it hopefully undergo a nice setup that we can take. Let's see. Yeah, I don't see a setup. Again, takes off without us. What do you know? Beautiful accumulation. Hopefully we go in for that reaccumulation now, just like I want to see. Yep, we start moving down for it. Exactly. Perfection. Now we want to come up. Hopefully it does something like this, basically. And then sets up a trade around here. Just perfection if we can do that. Nope. Break down to distribution, and I get to sit on the sidelines again, right? While actually the 4 hour is still clear for longs, and it creates a demand zone right here. So we can keep watching. There we are. for our longs if accumulation can re-enter the market. So it does. Reaccumulation re-enters the market, which is fantastic. And now, once again, we have to ask ourselves if we're in a worthy enough price action to confirm it right now. And I don't see it at the moment, so I have to wait. Enters redistribution into new accumulation. Perfect, right? Starts making an ICI through this high right here, but very choppy, very hard to enter, so I'm going to skip it. Now starting to make a nicer ICI inside of here. So again, 20 just started sloping up, 50 just started leveling out, and we have this beautiful little setup here to look to take long. So I'm happy to take a long through this as a buy stop. 0.2 ATR, so we're using a point. We'll just throw it under some of these candle wicks here. Look for long. Still looks good as a setup, and we get tapped into the market. So again, looking for a rule to break even here. Beautiful. So we get to move to break even, and at the same time, there we are. At the same time, we're getting an insane gap away kind of move from the MAs, right? So you can see the MAs here, straight up, straight up. Candle is huge. So now the question becomes, do we want to manage into this candle? So managing the low of the candle only secures us 0.7. Managing halfway of the candle already gives us 2.08 RR. So we're going to move a stop loss for 50% right here and keep holding. Holy shit. Okay. Another candle comes in. So then the question becomes, do we manage to the low of it or to 50% of it as it happened? I would say the low of it here is 6.2, which gives us 3.1 RR. Halfway of the candle as it happens is 5.25 RR. So in this scenario, we would easily have this managed at 50% of that candle as it moves higher. So this would take us out of our first partial on the way back once we move to that 50% of that candle, of course, right? And just to be very fair, I'm going to take the price of the close instead, even though this is where I would have closed. So at 8.8, we close our first partial for a 4.4 RR gain. Okay. And the rest we get to hold continuously at break even. So we just get to hold this and there's nothing for us to really do. So now we just wait for price to start making, hopefully, new protected lows that we can start managing to, because right now price is just kind of going so crazy that we can't really do anything, right? Okay, so price makes a protected low here, as you can see it with the mentfx indicator, but the previous ones here, which means that our stop loss still must remain here because I like to use 2 in a row to move my personal stop loss. And at the same time, we have to ask ourselves if it's worthy to start taking another partial. So you're getting another insane move. I think that if it starts making another move like this, we can start managing. So let's see. Okay, so it doesn't. So it's clean movement now. Hopefully we go through short-term reaccumulation and then start moving higher again, right? Short-term reaccumulation, just like that. And now hopefully we start to move higher again. Beautiful. So now we've created a new protected low right here. You can see the mentfx structure indicator shows that. So we can move our stop loss to this low of our overall position and hold the rest as is, because there's no reason to take any profit yet, because now we're only giving up 20, 10, 5, 5, 9, 4, 2. So we're only giving up about 2 RR to hold our position here instead of taking any partial yet. So I'm going to allow crazy money to come in if it wants to start taking more profits. Right now, there's not much to do, so we just wait. And then huge money enters, which is exactly what I want to see. But at the same time, new protected low. So new protected low can go here, right? And at the same time, look at this candle. So the question now is it worth to hold our stop loss here, which would give us a gain of 6 RR total, right? Or if we took another partial here at halfway of this candle or under it, what would that give us? So at 20, 10, so it would give us 5 RR just take a partial there, which makes us basically just as much as having price come back here. So that's infinitely worth. So I'm going to move a stop loss here for another 50%. Let's see what happens. Oh my God. Right? So once in a blue moon, moves like these will happen, right? Like the GameStop whole fucking thing that happened. Look, we're only at $17 now. I think this thing goes to like $600. I don't know if we'll be in it, but remember it does. Once in a blue moon, you'll get insane moves, right? Normal moves will make their partial and then come back, and that's fine. That's the whole move. But because of rules, because of how trends work, this will happen. And this is where you succeed, right? This is where clouds of liquidity succeed. This is where you literally have insane months for yourself, insane years. But again, simply 50% of the candle is where I'm going to manage, just under. So that's my next 50% partial. Let's see what happens. Okay, and we get finally stopped out of that one. So that's 33, which puts us at, I'm going to even round down, at 15, and we're taking 50% of that because we already took 50%, which puts us at 7.5. So plus 7.5 RR. Actually, a little bit more, but that's fine. 7.5, and our stop loss can remain here for the final portion, and now we can let the rest keep running because now we're just using the lows of the structure. Let's see what price wants to do. Oh, God. Oh, Jesus. So we would have been part of the move. At least we've learned that. Now, again, where is the current structure low? You can see it upgraded to this low here, which means we get to move our stop loss to this low right here, and we get to keep holding the rest as need be. Okay. And we get tapped out. Beautiful. Beautiful. So we get tapped out right here at a profit of 32 RR, but we've taken off 50%, so that puts us at about 15 RR, and we're taking off another 50% because of this one, so that gives us 7.5 again. There we are. So we actually got out of both of these trades at different times, but based on different rules. So we're out of all those trades now. Great. And, well, is the market still in a clear bias contextually for us to trade it? Well, let's take a look at the daily. The daily is gapping infinitely away from upward sloping MA. So in this scenario here on a daily, what am I usually doing? I'm waiting for some kind of move back to normality before I start even watching like a 4-hour. But as I look at a 4-hour here, you can see we have one supply zone down. So I would wait on a 4-hour here before I even step down lower. Let's see if a 4-hour can begin to go a little bit more sideways and then make a demand zone. Nothing, nothing, nothing. And then just blows up again. So right now I don't really have a reason to step down lower because right now it's moving in a way that I can't really participate in it. Now, if you have a system with a little bit of different rules, or your system is a higher time frame or something along those lines, then guess what? Instead of getting stopped out by a pipette of a pipette or whatever it is, you'd still be in this entire trade, right? And that's going to become a walloping trade. But again, I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you and be like, yep, you know, my students, all of us, oh, we caught the GameStop move. What do you know? We're just the GameStop predictors. The reality is no one can predict anything, at least not on this level, unless you're that guy that predicted it, of course. But we're traders. We're not investors, right? So we're going to just use our rules and trade when it makes sense to trade, which is why you saw I went back to wherever I possibly could and started trading when prices began to make the moves that were clear. And notice how we were still able to stay out of terrible price action, right? Notice how we were able to maintain few losses and a very few wins back and forth and maintain that even through shitty price action. And then notice what we're able to do when trends begin to enter. And then based on your rules, notice what you would be able to actually take out of the market had you been able to take it. But in this case, I wouldn't have, right? Because my rules aren't met. So I'm waiting for the 4-hour now to make something that is close enough to me being able to trade this. But this is just one of those markets that go, 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 and I would probably stop watching it. I'd look at the daily here and I'd be like, okay, there's really not much I can do here, right? There's not much of a market I can touch here. I have to wait for something that pulls back, right? And then you get this crazy move here, crazy, right? So right now there's nothing for me to do. And now we finally have a return to at least an MA, which is good. And at the same time, take a look at how it returned. It returned without creating any supply zone, and it actually returned to a type 2 demand zone, which is phenomenal. So now I can actually step to a 4-hour and take a look at whether there's even an allowability for a trade here. Notice what we have on a 4-hour. We have a supply zone 1, supply zone 2, supply zone 2. So we have double supply zone, which means that now I'm waiting for a demand zone to come in on the 4-hour before I follow it on an hourly. Let's take a look if I can get that. So we do get, no, we don't. We have to wait. So price begins to play around for a while, and you can see that it actually breaks the low. I can actually put this on log for you guys. There you go. And then auto. There we are. So this is just put on log so it's easier to see. But we had that run up, and now it's breaking down. But look at this. It's a perfect reaccumulation model. So hopefully we can start to find demand here that starts to make demand zones higher, so we can start following this thing higher. We make a demand zone here, but the 20 sloping straight down. So usually in those scenarios, I just don't even look at it. I'll just wait, because I know that's going to result in a more back and forth market, aka stage 1, where if I'm trading it, I'm going to be taking more losses in this area. So I'm going to wait now. But we're still in reaccumulation, which is very good, right? So we're waiting. We're waiting. Now we enter distribution. Fuck. Unlucky. Which means that it's going to be harder to look now, right? 50's heading straight down. The 20's like slumbering and kind of coming down. So there's nothing for me to touch here. I'll go to a daily and wait now. The daily is in that same range. It's in a bullish range. It's moving bullish. It's making supply zone short, but it's still in a fine area to go long. So I'm going to watch the 4 hour and wait for it to give me something that's worthy. But right now there's nothing. Okay. So I wait. And all of a sudden, price breaks long. Now it enters redistribution. But, right, so this is redistribution because it's moving lower and it made one break up. So it's entering redistribution. But, at the same time, the context of this in regards to what leg happened prior to it from the protected lows that were being created and the breakdown that happened, I actually view this as a reaccumulation as well due to the daily chart's context. So it allows me to start watching the hourly. And notice how different this price action is from the price action when we first started trading back here, when I didn't just excuse potential breakdowns because of the fact that price hasn't been showing any bullishness prior, right? This is how you read the context of the market. This is what it looks like to get better and better at reading the context of the market rather than thinking that there's this one tell-all indicator that just is going to simply give you the next direction and you're going to be able to predict it. That's not how markets move, right? You need to get used to and understand how the cycles of the markets function. So the 4 hours now created clear demand. It's moving higher. So clearly the hourly, if it makes a setup, it's good, but we know that it's just gapping away, and it is. But it's an accumulation, which is good. So that means that price could give us a setup and then we could get involved. But right now, I don't see a single thing I can do personally. So I wait. And then price starts to pull back, which is perfect. This is exactly what I want to see, right? Comes back. So now what I'm looking for personally is for price to come up, make a setup, and I can buy stop here or something along those lines. Let's see if we can get that. So pushes up. Beautiful. Beautiful. Pushes up and starts going sideways on the way up. So I can buy stop this. Again, the ATR is 3.4. So let's look at where 3.4 is. 3.4 is like here. It doesn't make sense to risk anything. So I double it. So right there. And look to take it higher. Let's see if we can get tapped in. No tapping, no tapping. Now I can protect this low right here. That's still under double. No, it's not. 2.9 ATR, so I have to actually still keep my protection right there. Still good. 2.78, which means that, yeah, this is still around the fine protection. See if we can get tapped in. Looks good still as a trade. Yep, still looks like a fine trade. So I'm just watching this as the overall trade, as the ICI, right? Because I told you guys this is my setup and I buy stop, right? That's my entire setup. That's all I do. So I get to wait here. I mean, setup's still clear, so I just wait for this to either tap me in or fail. Okay, so it does tap me in. Fantastic. And now we get to manage our trade, as always. So actually, 2.14 ATR, 5.4 is way too high. So before this tap in, I'd probably move it to be 4.28. 4.28. So I just move it to the low of this candle as the candle starts. It's as simple as that. Now, if I left it big, you can do that too. But if this ends up taking me out like this and then starts going, that's fine. Because I want to show you what I would do personally with my own rules. Okay? And even then, this is setting up another beautiful entry right now, right here. So if you missed this one, this is another great entry. But I would not take a second one after having one because, again, this is my personal management style that I like. Okay? So we wait. And price would have tapped you in here, but we're already in this trade. I have no break-even rules yet. Okay, so it starts to move long. Has it made 1 to 3 at least? It has. Okay, so we get to move our stop loss to break-even, which is great. Let's turn the log off again because it's getting its... Okay, now question is now. So we're good right now. Let's see if we can get a move out of this thing. So it starts to move higher, which is always a good thing to see. Let's take a look at where we are here. So already this candle is up over 2.41 RR, right? And it's already sloping up higher. So just below this candle is 2.3 RR. So I'm going to put my first partial under that candle low. And I get stopped out instantly for 1.65 RR gain. And the rest I get to hold with my normal rules. Great. So now I'm like risk-free on this and anything can happen and I don't really care. So price starts making a huge move away. And my stop loss has to remain here. So the question is, do I want to protect the low of this candle or not? Because again, it started to gap away from the MAs, which is normally met with a quick snapback into then new setups. And I don't want to be in the snapback that might take me out and then go. So I'm going to, this is how I manage, right? Again, same thing. I've already shown my management so many times in the ICI extras video, so I'm not going to go over it again and again right here because it's going to take even more time of the video, but I'm just letting you know that, yes, that's how I think, and I've shown it. So 5.2R, which means if I took one here, it'd be 1.25R R gain. Is that worth it in this case? I would say yes, because it's over 1R, which means it's going to pay for a trade on its own, so I'm going to move my stop for another 50% right here. Keeps moving. So again, same thing. I'm just going to move this along. Just going to move this to this low of this candle now. All right, so it keeps going. So move it to the low of this candle. So I know I'm going to get stopped out, but the question is, how high can it go before it stops me? Okay, there we are. So we get stopped out of our second partial here at 8.09, which is 4.04, which is 2.02. So this is a plus 2.02. And the final partial, we can simply... There we go. And the final partial we can simply leave with our rules of the structure. So now we wait. So it makes a new structure low right here, as you can see, which means I get to move my stop loss simply to here. And that's it. So we don't get stopped out. We're good. We're in this trade now. And let's see if we can get anything out of this. So now it's again setting up a new trade, right? So if you're not in this trade, another opportunity will be made hopefully around here. So we can wait for that. You'll see that in a second likely. Let's see. Yeah, comes down nicely and then should come up. So now again, we're entering distribution, but we're hoping that distribution goes through a stage 1 that then starts to accumulate again without taking me out. Otherwise, it's fine because, you know, I've already made my money. I'm only left to make more, really, right? Is how this functions. Yep, so distribution coming in. Probably going to take me out, but that's fine. Just draw this out for you guys. There you go. Yep, there you go. And we get stopped out of the final portion at 1.76, which is a 0. What is that? 0.85, which is 0.4. So like plus 0.4. Whatever. It's not even important, but whatever. I'll just write it in. There you go. Okay, back to the 4 hour. So the 4 hour is starting to chop around here and coming on the downside of the move. So we have to wait for accumulation to come in or some kind of demand validation. The daily is still in this huge range, but still moving long, which is good to see, and moving in a way that's normal, which means that we can easily get another move out of this, right? This is still moving in a generally a clear way. So we'll go to the 4 hour and wait for demand to come in again if we want to keep following longs. So we have to wait for it. Now look what happens. Price begins to enter what it says to be redistribution. Now personally, as I look at this, so again, let's log and auto it again. You have a huge up move, reaccumulation. Reaccumulation starts to hold and breaks down. I see this as reaccumulation still. However, I'm not going to trade it right now. One, because yes, it goes a little bit against what it's saying here. And two, because the demand validation is with sideways sloping 50, downward sloping 20. Usually I like upwards or sideways sloping 20. So I get to just wait here and wait for new demand to enter. Let's see if it does. Okay. So you have demand in control, but nothing else is happening. So I don't have to touch this right now. Yep, just going sideways. No demand validation just yet, just breaking down. So I just get to wait. And we have demand validation at sideways/sideways sloping. So we can easily see this demand validation result in a new move higher. So great. I can look at the hourly. Is the hourly in a clear bias? And look what happened. This thing has started to enter potential redistribution, right? Started moving higher, which is what we wanted to see. Reaccumulation, but very long-term reaccumulation, and has now just broken long to potentially move longer, but then broke down again. This is potential distribution or redistribution, which means that price is going to go sideways for a while or come down. So I'm going to wait for new longs to come in before I even look to follow this. Let's see what happens. So don't care about this price action. This is where I get to ignore price completely. Delete this guy. Don't need him anymore. Don't need this guy too. Yep, so comes down like we said it would, which is good to see because, well, we love predicting price, don't we? And yeah, it's just in distribution right now, so we get to wait. Breaks up, now it's redistribution again, likely going to do what? Do this, and I get to wait on the sidelines and touch nothing, right? Okay, so now we make two breaks up. But again, now look at where this is all happening. Look at the stage 1 we're inside. I don't want to trade this kind of price action. I'm going to simply wait. Let's look at the 4 hour. The 4 hour is still in potential redistribution, validation to the demand on the top side, but there's nothing much to do here. Daily. Daily is okay, but look at what the MAs are doing. They're becoming choppy as fuck. These are the kind of price actions that are no longer clear to me. So I would ignore price now until it became clearer, at least even on a 4 hour, before I even follow this or touched it. Let's see if we can get that. So it's just in this, look at this range that it's in, and it's been stuck here. And anyone taking trades here, long or short, are taking ass whoopings right now. So I just get to sit on the sidelines and wait. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. And price breaks the high and enters new accumulation. And the daily enters clearer accumulation. So now I can expect a potential run on this high. Great. I can watch my hourly now. Is the hourly entering that? So that's stage 1. Look what happened. Look how long this entered that stage 1 that was super ugly. Then broke down again and started breaking up, entered accumulation, and is now actually moving beautifully long. There's actually a beautiful setup here and here that I missed, but that's fine because new setups will present themselves. And hopefully now we get a snap back that makes a setup, or it keeps going higher and then reaccumulates and gives me a setup here. Simple. I know what I'm looking for, and I just simply can wait because I know where price is heading for. I understand how clouds of liquidity form, and I know how everyone wants to see this now short for some reason, probably. Let's see what happens. I don't know. So hopefully we come down now for a reaccumulation exactly like this. And what do I want to see now? I want to see price come up, and I can buy right here. That's it. Come up. Hopefully it goes sideways now for like a candle or two. So we get to wait. That looks good enough for me. And I can buy stop this high. Buy stop the high, 2.25. Just under this candle low or double. So I should protect this candle low here. Perfectly fine. See if we can get involved. Okay, so we get tapped in. Do we get 1 to 3 here? Yeah, we do. So I have to move to break even, sadly, because it looks like it's going to take me out, but that's fine. This stop loss to break even. Okay, so it actually does keep making the move, which is great to see. Now, again, same thing. Overextended. Do I want to protect under this low? That's about 2 RR. Only gives me 1 RR gain and a very early in the move, so I'm actually going to allow this to do whatever it needs to do because you also have this guy here, which there's a loss of momentum. It can happen around here, which is under 1. So right now it all makes sense for price to keep on. Okay, so instead it just takes me out. Whatever. Let's take a break even. But beautiful action, which means that we can still easily get another long out of this. Let's see if we can get one. Yeah, I mean, this is perfection. Easiest long like ever. Just super clear. For me at least, but you know, just showing you what I do, so. Or what I would do. Let's put it that way. Yeah, so setup still looks good, and the stop loss looks fine. 2.3. Stop loss still looks fine, but I just have to look at this and consider whether it makes sense to even trade this or not. I don't like it. I'm going to skip this and wait for a new setup. So now I'm going to simply wait for price to hopefully go sideways again, and I can buy stop here. Let's see if we can get that. This is a perfect. I mean, this is a buy stop for me every day, right? Exactly what I wanted to see. Told you guys I want to see sideways, so I'm buy stopping this and stop loss 2.45. To just protect the candle low here and call it a day. Look at 1 to 3 here for the break-even rule. Okay, so we do get our break-even met. So the stop loss gets moved to break-even. And you also had another entry, just so you guys know, right here. So same thing happened, right? Great entries, but don't need to take it because we're in one. And at the moment, the question is, do we want to break even or partial or anything yet? I would say, actually, yeah. So half of this up candle is 3.6 RR, and price is extended on it. The low of it is 2.2, so I am going to put it at the halfway mark, which is exactly the low, pretty much, right? Probably put it somewhere here. Yeah, so I would say that would hit. So we're just going to assume that we're out. So even if the next candle goes like this, boop, it doesn't matter because I'm out of this trade now. Or out of the first partial. 3.6, which puts us at 5, 6, 7, 1.8. So again, I'm rounding down for all of these just for the sake of you guys. Just so you know that, you know, even if you take into account commissions and you fuck up something and everything, blah, 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 you're going to be perfectly fine. 1.8 RR gain. And we get to hold the rest. Fantastic. Yeah, starts building a beautiful move higher. Oh, okay. And takes us out. So we just get the 1.8R. And again, are we in a clear condition? So we started reaccumulating, breaks up, breaks down, breaks up, breaks up, breaks down. So now you can see we've entered potential distribution. Let's take a look at the 4 hour. The 4 hour has made a supply zone. Demand is still holding. So it's actually still in a decent long. Hasn't made a run on that high yet. And this high, which is the highs we want to see around. Daily is not too extended, but they are sloping upwards. So the hourly could still set up. So we'll keep an eye on it because this could still be a reaccumulation in my book, even though it says distribution here. So we'll keep watching it. Breaks down. So it actually does become a reaccumulation. So maybe that was a little bit of a bug there, but it's on the downside of price now. So we get to ignore this, which is great. 4 hours probably in multi-supply zone. Yep. So we get to wait for the 4 hour now to turn up. Nope, no demand yet. Starts going back and forth, which is making us enter stage 1. AKA, I get to sit on the sidelines and don't have to do anything or lose money because I understand that there are times to trade and there are times to walk away. In distribution, as you can see, in redistribution, moving lower, nothing to really do. MA starts sloping down, really nothing to do. The daily starts to slope downwards too, so it becomes very, very ugly. We're now, look at this. We've now spent a lot of time in this range, right? This range is starting to build up and become long-term. It's becoming part of a bigger move. We don't know where it wants to go or what it wants to do. The 4 hour is entering a very choppy market in around the same prices, which means that you're at some kind of stage 1. So at the moment, I just get to sit back and wait, right? This is not clear in any way whatsoever that there wants to be money behind this or that big money's behind this that I can trade and that I can be involved in too. So now I wait. Okay, and then some money comes in for potential accumulation, but is this clear accumulation to me? Not at all, right? This is the first breakup in still this longer term sideways action without any prominence of being part of like new price action. The daily has, I mean, what the fuck is the daily even doing? It's like, it's okay. Maybe it can make a run. The 4 hour supply, I mean, don't even know. I'm going to wait for a 4 hour demand zone and then I'll take a look at a lower time frame. Let's see if we can get one. So we get a demand zone. Let's look at an hourly now, see where we are. So the hourly does enter some accumulation and money does start finally flowing in, but now we're in this longer term model here, right? Longer term range. So again, what's likely? Price goes sideways, price goes down, price goes sideways and down. But if we can get it to move higher, break down and make me a setup, then we can consider a potential long. Let's see if we can get that. Right now, though, there's absolutely nothing with this price action. So there's that sideways we were talking about. Exactly. Yep. As anticipated. And it actually does go for that low. So it's now in reaccumulation, but it's on the downside of price. So there's nothing for me to touch. Validates the reaccumulation, but look how weak it is. Like, where is this thing going? What does it want to do? This is just terrible. Yeah, like I mean, what is this? Stage 1 of nothingness into new distribution, into redistribution. What is going on, right? Go back to a 4 hour because clearly, you know, and now you're stuck in this range on the 4 hour. So you just get to sit on the sidelines and probably wait for this to nullify, or, which it's likely to do, come here and then start going sideways again, right? Because it's how markets move. And look at the daily. Now we're even more longer term stuck in this range. Let me unlog it. Yeah, even more longer term stuck in this range. So you're in a moment now where there's nothing to touch. You'd probably want the daily to like get out of this even on an intermediary. So I'll be on the daily now and wait. I mean, it's just sideways action galore, right? There's nothing to do. The 4 hour is going to tell you the same story. Look at this thing, right? It stayed in that range, made one break, and then started slopping down. What is the market's not telling you a single thing here. So I get to sit on the sidelines. How long are we on this? 59 minutes. Yeah, it's usually at 59, about an hour into a video that I start getting tired. So, gonna, boom, exit replay mode. Where are we now? Yeah, I mean, look at, and we're still in this. Oh yeah, this is the range we're still in. Look at this. This is how simple it becomes to walk away from markets when you understand how ranges function, how money functions, and when ranges like these happen and it goes long term, it's absorbing the move that happened here. You realize all this price action here is just the absorption of what happened here, and it's just playing it out, equilibriumizing it, and all the dumb money that doesn't understand that is just shoveling money either into shorts or longs and taking shit for it, because there is no prominent trend here, right? There's no money to be made there unless you're like maybe scalping back and forth zones, but I don't do that because, you know, I want something that is scalable, and I want to teach people to do things that are scalable. So, nonetheless, let's add up our performance because, well, we're done trading GameStop, and we've learned, at least from a standpoint of entering on an hourly chart using the rule of 30, taught by mentfx, the rule of 4, taught by mentfx right here, the models, the SSEs, the proper demand, supply validation, all the things that are taught here, how we could have gotten involved, stayed out of huge losses, potential huge losses that other people in the world did take, billions, millions, hundreds of millions, huge RR multiples that they lost because there was no risk management. And you get to see how simply you can follow rules to take losses when they're good, take normal losses as you need to, so you can take your wins when they come, right? And then some wins are going to be crazy, which is exactly what happened here, in which case, great, you make even more money. So, -1, -2.5, -3.5, -4.5, and then you have -3.5. We're just going to round down, it's fine. -3.5, -4.5, 0, so we're back at break even, plus 15, plus 15, plus 15, plus 15, plus 15. I'll go back here so I can see it on a lower time frame. Yeah, so plus 15, nothing here, plus 15, plus 16, plus 17, plus 18, plus 19, plus 19, 2021. I must have missed a loss somewhere, right? Is that all the losses I took only? Wow. Losses are so great. I love losses. Okay, well, if you traded the entire GameStop debacle during the time where it started to show that there was bullishness coming in, and you normally followed it with simple rules, and you didn't even have, and you had even normal rules that didn't allow you to even hold the trade, like this one here, that would have allowed you to go to fucking Narnia, to the space, to the moon with that initial like potential trade that you might have taken, then you ended up from this entire thing profiting 21R of your risk multiple, which, I mean, is just absolutely nuts. And this is how I follow my rules over and over again on any time frame. In this case, showing you it on an hourly. And I go and suggest you guys to go and do this on a daily. Go and do this on a 1 hour. Go and do this on a 30-minute, 15-minute, whatever time frame you want to do. There will be opportunities. There will actually probably be more opportunities based on if you go on a lower time frame. It's just the question is, are you within a context that's worthy of being traded, and are you following somewhat simple rules that allow you to stay out of shit action, right? Because our rules allow us, as we were doing this stuff here, to stay out of shit action. It allowed us to stay out of most shit action with the exception of those two losses. It allowed us to start entering when wins were prevalent or likely, and instead we took normal losses because that's what happens, right? And then we took the normal wins that come along with those normal, with the trade-off of taking normal losses as well. And then those wins overpower. And whether these wins were worth 10R or even 5R, you would still be profitable, right? That is what you need to recognize too. Well, nonetheless, now you know how to trade something like GameStop. Or, better yet, you've now learned officially how to trade the next big name that you hear about, the next AI stock that takes over the world, the next cryptocurrency that takes over the world, the next universal world currency that takes over the world, the next insert whatever market or whatever concept or whatever news you want here. You now understand that there's nothing new. Money will show you, the big money will show you when it's ready to make a move. And that move will start. And that move will give you opportunities. Those opportunities will result in break-evens, losses, and wins. And if you have simple, good risk management and you follow simple rules that you've determined for yourself and that you understand that you have to follow no matter what, well, you're going to be good and you're going to be set. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you all in the next one. All right. Blessings. Thank you.